Well, hello and welcome to my shop. This video will cover how you can set up a spray finishing area in your shop to enable you to go and safely and efficiently spray water-based finishes. Now, only water-based finishes. If they have alcohol base or if they're a solvent-based finish, then you can't be using this process. You really do need to either be spraying in a certified spray booth or outside where you're not going to have to worry about any of the issues related to spraying such finishes. So this video will cover only spraying water-based finishes procedures. Now, the first thing that we're going to do to set things up is we're going to try to clear the area. And by that I mean we're going to have to make sure that there's no dust lurking around the shop so that once we start spraying, that dust can get disturbed and then start settling onto our work. The process that I follow is, firstly, after figuring out where I'm going to be setting things up, I'll take my leaf blower and I'll blow the entire area. I'll start at the top, start at the ceiling, and you'd be astonished how much dust is collecting on air conditioning ducts and light fixtures and such. So I start up at the top and then I work my way down, blow things off the walls and then the machines, and I try to blow it from the area that I'm going to be at to the other area in my shop. So that's the first thing that you've got to do. After I've given about an hour or so for the dust to settle, because it does take time, I'll take my shop vac and I'll vacuum the entire area. And of course, some of the dust will have collected on the machines, so I'll make sure that those areas are cleared off. Now, with the dust out of the area, I'm going to now set up drop cloths over all the machines. So as you can see, I've got them on the various machines in this area. And that's a great thing because overspray, and there's going to always be a certain amount, even if you're using high volume, low pressure systems, there's still going to be a certain amount of overspray. So to ensure that that doesn't come down and settle onto your machines, you're going to have to cover them up. And I use all sorts of things. I use old blankets, I use moving blankets, and I use drop cloths. Whatever you've got around will work. So once I've got rid of all the dust, and that will take a little bit of time, and that's the reason why I do that the day before. Because if you do it the same day that you're planning on spraying, there will likely be some more dust just still floating around the area. So give it time to settle down. Now we're ready to start setting up our spray area. First thing that I do is I figure out where I'm going to be placing my work support. Now in this case, I'm using a simple shop stool that I've had kicking around for several years now. But make sure that the top of it is a little bit smaller than the smallest piece that you're going to be setting on it. Okay, so I've got it positioned there. The next thing I like to do is I like to go and set my lights up. Now, believe you me, the standard shop light that you'll have in your general area is probably not going to be adequate because you can't spray efficiently if you can't see where the spray is actually depositing itself on the surface of your area. So I have an LED light bar here that's mobile and portable, and I'll set it up to make sure that it's going to shine on the work so I can watch as I'm moving along. The next thing I go and set up is I set up my fan. So I have it maybe about 8 feet away from it. This is just a simple 20-inch box fan. I picked this up at a thrift store for $10. I think new they're around $30 or $40 at most. But anyways, this has a 3-speed fan. And you don't have to have any filters on it because the intention is to go and have the airflow from behind where you're spraying and come and spray across here. So I set it about 8 feet away from where I'm going to be spraying. I put it up on a stand so that it's at approximately the same height as the pieces are that I'm going to be spraying. and it's a 3-speed fan, so I'm going to have it on high in all likelihood while I'm spraying. Now, if your fan is too high of a velocity, you can go and use a lower speed on the fan. The purpose here, of course, is to ensure that as you're spraying, any overspray gets moved away from where you're spraying. It's not really to provide a high-speed volume of air, because if it's too high of a speed, then it will actually cause the spray to start drying before it hits the surface of the area that you're spraying. So you're going to have to do a little bit of experimenting as to the distance that you'll have your fan away, and as well the speed that you're going to be setting it up. The third thing that you need to do is you need to go and position your air source. Now in my case, I've got a turbine-based system here. This is my Q5 Platinum by Fuji Spray, a great turbine. As far as I'm concerned, it's the best on the market, and I've tried them all. So I set it so that it is outside of the overspray area. So if I'm spraying here and the fan is blowing this way, then there's going to be very, very little overspray that's going to find its way back to that air source, my turbine. Now if you've got a compressor, you'll still want to be doing the same thing. You'll have your compressor set outside of the airflow area to ensure that the filters that are in that compressor are not getting overfilled with overspray, pardon me. So that's the main things to go and set up. Okay, so we have most things set up now. The next thing we need to do, however, is we have to consider what we're going to be doing with the piece once we've sprayed it. So in my case, I ensure that I have prearranged an area where I'm going to be placing my panels, or whatever it is that I'm spraying, so that they can be outside of the airflow and therefore not receiving overspray on them while they're drying. So in my case, I just set up one of my mobile carts here that's got a paint tin on it, and I'll just set the piece on there, and I know it's outside of the airflow area, which will primarily be here, and it's going to be fine to dry. If I had more than one piece, I would have them all set on, beyond the shop area from here. And that would ensure that they would be at the ready for me to be moved in and out, and I'll be able to go and spray them effectively. Now, another thing you have to consider is the pathway that you're going to be going from your spray area to your drying area. Make sure that you don't have your hose hanging around so that you can trip on it. And make sure that it's close at hand so that it doesn't take you too long and you can be efficient with your spraying. Now there's one very important issue that we have to talk about, and that's the issue of safety. Now I've emphasized during the video thus far that this is an area designed only for safely spraying water-based products, such as these two here, this water-based shellac and this water-based acrylic lacquer. These are just examples. But if I were to be spraying any of the alcohol-based products, such as traditional alcohol-based shellac or spirit-based shellac, or solvent-based finishes of any sort, that cannot safely be done in this environment. So, assuming that you've got that message loud and clear, the next issue I want to mention is air handling systems. Now, my shop is in the basement of our home. So just outside of the shop door is our central furnace system, which is also hooked to the air conditioning system. It's all one and the same. And if I leave that turned on, if I leave the fan system turned on while I'm spraying, there's a likelihood that any overspray can be drawn into the filter system or get into the mechanism and cause damage. So while you're actively spraying, turn off the fan to those systems so it will not be drawing air in. Also, it's not a good idea to having a fan on in your shop while you're spraying, unless you're just talking about the one that's associated for your spray area there. because that can unnecessarily disturb the dust. Now the other issue is, of course, one of fire. Now I know we're going to be spraying water-based finishes, and like, what's the likelihood of a fire from that? Well, although it's very, very small, I always have on hand a fire extinguisher. Now in my shop, I've got one at every entry to the shop. So just around the corner there, I've got the stairwell entry area there that goes up and into the garage. And on the far side of the shop, the other side, I've got another fire extinguisher at that door as well. So make sure that they're rated for the type of fires you can anticipate. Hope there's none. The next thing, of course, is wearing a respirator. Now I know there's individuals that, for whatever reason, they feel that water-based or waterborne products are safe and benign and that they don't have to be wearing a respirator. Nothing could be further from the truth. Those finishes contain very much the same resins and acrylics and additives as their solvent-borne counterparts. So you have to wear a respirator. And I don't care if you're just doing a little bit of a touch-up, put your respirator on. You deserve it, and your loved ones deserve it as well. And speaking of loved ones, don't allow your pets into the area while you're spraying. And if there's others that are in your shop at the same time that have to be in the shop and can't leave for whatever reason, ensure that they as well are wearing a respirator. I hope that helps you out. Safety is indeed paramount.